all over the place, man.
Good morning.
Christmas rocks.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, you wonderful old Billy and Lone!
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
If you're really Santa Claus, you can get it for me. And if you can't, you're only a nice man with a white beard, like Mother said.
Okay.
Oh, no!
It's the holiday season.
You hear that noise in the background? We'll switch over to something right now. Yeah. Nerve Gorilla, man. I don't know if you can get the good volume out of this or not. They're about to start the show back up over there. I've just been catching this. I turned on to this guy. Tattoo turned me on to this guy, I don't know, a month or so ago, maybe longer. I don't know. I talked to him once on the phone. And that's him. He's in the background. I don't know if you can hear the voice. He's the guy messing with the microphone. That's his producer, I guess, on Back to Us, Sideways to Us right now. And he just does these shows, puts these shows on all the time. I check them out. It's worth checking out. You can see it. It's on my screen right now. So, we'll go over to it. It's just old Phil Henry shows. Let's check this out.
Rudy Canosa as Jacob Marley. Margaret Gray as the ghost of Christmas past. Harvey Wireman as the ghost of Christmas present. Herb Sewell as the ghost of Christmas future. Bobby Dooley will play Mrs. Cratchit. Steve Bozell as Bob Cratchit. R.C. Collins as Tiny Tim. Justin McElroy as the kid in the alley who goes to get the goose. And Scrooge's nephew, played tonight by Jeff Dowder. We join Scrooge now in his office on Christmas Eve.
All right, let me tell you what. I fought the Korean War, and I'll tell you something else, Cratchit. And you sit there like a baby and everything.
Mr. Scrooge, I was just hoping maybe, it's Christmas Eve. I want to go home and, make merry.
Want to go home and make merry? What's that supposed to mean? I'll bet you want to grease it up for some of your boyfriends, don't you? You crybaby. You didn't fight the war like me.
Mr. Scrooge, I want to go home. I got a crippled up boy.
Yeah, get out of here. I suppose you're going to want to... Boy, you love to rape me up one side and down the next every Christmas Eve, don't you? Go on, get your ass out of here.
Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Bah humbug.
Wait, what does that mean, bah humbug?
It's what you're going to be doing later on with your man friends. As in bah humbug, get it? And then you add a G-E.
Oh, get out of here. You're a mean old... You're a mean old guy.
Pile of turd. God, get out of here. There he goes, Cratchit. Always raping me up one side and down the next. I pay him a decent wage, and what's he want to do? Light a candle to heat his hands up? What a thief. Well, I might as well get my ass out of here, get home. I think I've got some of that gruel on the stove. Probably turn out maybe there's a little bit of ER left on a rerun. Making my way through this traffic.
Good evening, Mr. Scrooge.
How do you want?
Mr. Scrooge, this time of year...
Wait, let me ask you a question before you go. What happened to your mouth?
Mr. Scrooge, I'm simply asking you, like I do every year, would you care to donate money to the poor people? It's Christmas time and like that.
Yeah, it's Christmas time and like that. Yeah. Why don't the three of you guys just get together and hold hands and go in and have yourself a cider or whatever you gay blades do? Isn't there a workhouse? Ain't there any, like a workhouse or some deal like that?
Of course you have workhouses. But is that what you want to do with the poor people?
Yeah, you want to do that with a poor man? Yeah, I'll do that with a poor man. Better than he go into a workhouse and work for a living instead of me having to turn over my money to some deadbeat freak beatnik. Now beat it, beatnik bum.
Oh, boy, I'd love to.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm ready. The light's green.
Forget it. Let's go. Let's go get a drink.
Yeah, let's go get a cider
This
drink.
guy is great.
Bunch of queers. Well, let me get my keys out here. And I'll just unlocked the door. Ooh, a little cold in here tonight. Ooh. Yeah, I wonder what's on the tube. Oh, the hell with all that, man. All they have now, you know. And that guy, a queer eye for a gay guy or whatever the hell that, I don't want to do that. Well, I think what I'll just do here is sit down and have myself a little nap.
Scrooge.
Button Christ.
Scrooge, do you understand who this is? Do you know who you're listening to, Scrooge?
Holy good, sweet Christ. It's Jacob Canosa, my old partner.
Yes, Scrooge.
What are you all dressed up for? Is that some kind of a Spaniard outfit?
This is not a Spaniard outfit, you freak. These are the chains that I wear for all the years that you and I robbed people blind. You and I, when we had the lingerie shop, and I would rub the cow. The cow would come in. Well, guess what now, Scrooge? I must carry around these chains. You must repent, Scrooge.
Repent? What the hell's that supposed to be? You want me to start speaking Spanish, I guess, huh?
No, you jackass. Just quit screwing people around like you do. Don't be such a tight freaking wad, you know?
Oh, Marley, you always were a real soft touch. You know that? Guy, you know, you bought every round of drinks in the bar, Marley. You're a real...
My name's Canosa, you jackass. Jacob, get
out of here. You're not Jewish. I'll go to bed. To hell with this. Kind of freaky in here. Better draw the blinds. All right, just take care of a little business.
All right.
Yeah, I'll do that. Now I'll go to bed.
I'm trapped. Anyway, guys, I'm back.
What are you? Oh, God, look at the lipstick on you. Clown lipstick.
All right, I gotta eat. That's enough of that. You know, that guy's great. He plays these shows. He does that just about every day. He doesn't always have. I mean, I've only seen there's some kind of weird stuff going on my screen right now. I haven't seen the actual video footage. You know, usually he's like playing a game or something like that. With these radio shows in the background, but that was a classic. I mean, if I left it on, it would have been my whole show, the Scrooge show. But that thing will be up there, and I recommend you check it out. Nerve Gorilla, it'll be there. In fact, nobody's watching my show now, so if you're watching my show, obviously put this on pause, go over, watch the replay of that thing, and then come on back here. I don't even know if it's worth coming back here, to tell you the truth. Anyway. We're back.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
I mean, in these days, you know, and he nailed it right there where he said, hey, it's the internet, man. You know, it's like, whatever we do here is what we do here. And, you know, these guys are playing some kind of game, you know, and there's all kind, and I guess, you know, they stopped sending emails out, but they were sending all these emails out about, I have no idea what those anomalies down the bottom are. It's like, you see that on my shirt. Yeah, it must be coming through over the broadcast. Let me go look at my device capture and see if there's some filter thing going on here with the color correction. Yeah, it's on there. I mean, it's not like I have the opacity down. The U shift, saturation isn't really oversaturated. I could brighten this up a little bit if I wanted to. I think I might. Take the contrast to normal. Gamma. See what gamma does. It makes it like daylight. It's good to know. I know Rumble is going to be allowing using this program, this open source program, which is kind of cool. I almost think it has something to do with saturation, but I don't really. Anyway, enough of that. It's still there. I can't get rid of it. So, like the show said, the title show, Free Flow of Consciousness, Part 351Z. And if you saw the title card for this particular show, it's, it looks like Elvis used to go something like this. In the in a band, here's my latest tune. Goes a little bit like this, a little bit like this, or something like this. Well, doesn't it completely go like that? That's the whole thing. Anyway, let me get through. I'm just winging this thing. I don't really care anymore. Excuse me.
It's the holiday season.
So I don't really care. Maybe it's a saline solution, it says. Then why? Check that out. I think it makes sense if you figure it out. Maybe you could follow through that. I follow you. That makes sense. Exactly. They put yeah, that's what I think. Hey, the old Tattoo Aruni sent me one of these. Look, it's an original vaccine passport. Right? Some people think that, this stuff wasn't real.
Your papers, please.
Well, I got my papers, please. See, look at that. That's glossy, the whole 9 yards, man. They're serious about this. I happened to get an advance one from one of my old, spook friends down in D.C. Check it out.
Your papers, please.
Alan Watts used to have a laugh, something like that. No, but what I was saying was I got my classic shirt on like she's wearing up there in the thing. This one. You should try to get one of these. Special delivery. Of course, you could wear it straight in through the new year if you want to. Hell, you could wear it in the summertime. But anyway, maybe we'll check back to the Phil Henry show later on. See how that Scrooge thing is going. But like I say, it's, I'm live, he's live. But by the time you watch this, both of us will be, recorded. So it's there for all to see. But, there's some weird stuff going on. So the thing about it is, so YouTube is send out all these emails. I get a half dozen of them about how they under the guise of making their terms of service easier, right? Easy, man, easy. Making them all easier to understand or consolidate or something weird like that. But what it really is it means that it's kind of like I think it's the final solution of Alphabet to turn YouTube into like a cable, the new cable TV, since cable TV is all but dead, right? And so these like networks that are hanging on, for dear life, and everybody's cutting a cord right and left. Every week there's people cutting a cord. So, they're just basically going to hijack YouTube and use it as cable. And so all those people who sit and watch cable are going to end up watching YouTube. And then the rest of the people are going to just go escape to these other places, like Rumble and BitChute and all that. Now, Rumble's growing like mad, right now. In fact, let's take a look over there. Let me put this new window up. First of all, let's go back to see what he's doing, what the progress on that show over here.
Show's presentation of A Christmas Carol as Scrooge is flying through the night with the growth of...
Oh, I get it.
I can't even do it any longer.
I must have been dreaming. That ghost of Christmas past. What a looker she was. I gotta go back to sleep. I gotta go back to sleep.
Hey, wake up, you jackass.
Oh, what are you supposed to be? What are you made up to be?
What am I made up to be? I'm the ghost of Christmas present. Okay, I'm here to show you what it's all about. I'm Harvey Wireman. I'm an attorney at law, but I'm the ghost of Christmas present.
What is that? What do you mean, ghost of Christmas present? I was having myself some shut-eye.
Well, you're not getting any shut-eye anymore. Now, grab my hand. We're going to fly over the city and stuff.
Oh, wouldn't you just love that?
Grab my hand.
Woo! What a devil.
Where do you think we're flying now?
We're flying over the city. This is the city I live in right up.
All right, that's enough of that. Anyway, this is Rumble, by the way. You heard the background here. I didn't really put it up, but this is Rumble, and you can see I've got a channel over there as well. I'm not signed in on this thing, but that's my channel, and I've already started to plop a couple videos over there, and as you can see, it's a different format than YouTube. I don't know if they have a dark mode. I don't see that. I guess they got it. I mean, I can make a dark mode, I guess. But I mean, this is their deal. And so a lot of interesting people are going over there, but it's a little bit, it's both sides, but I mean, it's a little bit more leaning, I guess you would say right-leaning than left-leaning. And that's Rumble. And I think you're going to probably see a lot of people who just, a lot of the free speech people and the people who are like against this sort of thing. I mean, not this thing. I mean, in all reality, this is something, like I said, my buddy Tattoo sent me, but this is, give credit where credit's due. And basically it's a copy of the Constitution. Well, you could read it here for yourself. It's a copy of the Declaration of Independence, Constitution, Bill of Rights, amendments, etc. But what's cool about it is, and I was going to do, I'm going to do it, I think, just for the hell of it, is on the second page inside. Let me just, it's, actually, in one of my books, I forget which book it was. Oh, my handbook, I did include a copy of the Constitution. I forget what book that was. But in here, it's got a place, apart from his promotion stuff on the one side, on the other side here, it's got a place to attach your photo and stuff. It's a novel idea, but it's very well made. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So if somebody says to you,
Your papers, please.
say, okay, here, I got that. I got one. I mean, I don't know what they would do. You know what I mean? Half the bouncers or these doormen at these places, they've got the IQ of a fence post. Nothing personal to all the doormen and bouncers I've known over the years, but, let's face it. So anyway, all right, so Free Flow of Consciousness continues. This is like what? This is the Free Flow of Consciousness, part 351Z, 17 December. It's 5:22 a.m. in the morning. There's not a single person watching. And over in other channels in YouTube land, this guy's doing his own rendition of the Night Before Christmas or whatever, Scrooge. I mean, I'd like to just watch that myself, which I will watch it probably later. But I'm not, there's no need to put the whole show on since he those things stay up. It'll be up there. Just go to his channel, Nerve Gorilla. I don't know. He's a character. I talked to him on the phone. Anyway, so I have no format. I have nothing planned for today. I don't have anything planned for tomorrow or the next day. We're only 19 minutes into this show. It seems like it's been longer. But, it's like, I think it is, in these last days that I'm only going to be doing I think I'm only going to primarily be on YouTube for a couple more weeks tops. And it's not like because I care, like, about whether or not, they want to give me a strike or something like that. But it's just that, I don't know. It's like when you've done this many shows, it's like it just gets to the point of where it's like, what's next? What am I going to do next? What's the next show going to be? And I'm not into the news to me has just gotten so insane, so ridiculously insane that I just can't, I don't really, I'm tired of it. Even the weather is insane. Like last night, this is insane. It was like raining here and the wind was howling and things are blowing and it's supposed to rain like Saturday. The temperature outside here right now is in the 40s. They're saying it's going to be cloudy and 48, but tomorrow it's supposed to be like 57 and 100% chance of rain. I told you before that those percentages don't mean necessarily that it's 100% chance of rain. What it means, it's something to do with like 100 in the areas where it's going to rain within that state or in that area, that meteorological like carved out area. It's something like there's 100% chance in a particular, in a certain spot, but not necessarily like this spot, like 100% in the state. I don't know. I can't. There was some guy trying to explain what it meant on YouTube one time. And all I could tell you is it's like everything else. It's not the way it seems. So anyway, the wind was howling. Things are blowing. I'm expecting to go out today and I'll probably find some more roof shingles on the ground. It's going to rain probably all day or for the better part of the day on Saturday. So I've got to like see if I got any new leaks. There's nothing to do with anything other than the fact of the matter is that I'm not even covering the weather anymore because the weather is inconsistent. There was a time, and this isn't that long ago, like when I was in radio, we were showing that guy on radio, and I don't know if I could, no, that just gives a capture of me. But I probably should have kept that window open. And we could have checked back from time to time. But let me just do this for a second. New window, history. This guy's crazy. It's great. Yeah, he's going wacko.
Let me ask you a question. What day is it, boy? It's the 25th of September. What do you mean it's the 25th of September? What month is it, boy? Oh, yeah, it's December. December 25th? That means it's still Christmas Day? Well, yeah, I guess. Jesus. Listen, boy, I want you to do a word for me, okay? Yeah? You know that goose that's around the corner there in the butcher shop? What butcher shop? There's a Vaughn's. Oh, yeah, okay, the Vaughn's. Go around there and get a goose. Really selling gooses? That's for like gay stuff. Get the goose! I'm going to go over with this goose over to Cratchit's house, and I hope you'll forgive me for all of the rotten stuff I've done to him, including that time that, he was bent over.
I cannot agree. Anyway, all right. But, that guy's nuts, man. Wasn't it? So, that's YouTube. You know what I mean? And if there was more of that on YouTube, it would be cool, But it's not. You know what I mean? I know lately I've been watching stuff like some of the freakiest stuff in the world. I've been getting into this mud flood. There's this other woman too, and it won't be in. I'm signed into a different account, and it doesn't hold my history here in this browser downstairs because I watch on a TV upstairs. I'm trying to think of the name of this woman. She has these cameras and she's into UFOs, and she has this picture of there's this permanent structure docking base by the sun. And I mean, she's out there, and she's apparently been doing this for a couple of years. And then the things about the mud flood, and there's a lot of stories about that, how America was settled before, and the World's Fairs were a way of them justifying destroying the buildings of the previous civilization, pretending that they were putting these things up, building them as World's Fairs, expo type of things. But in reality, what the buildings were already there, and they were tearing them down, pretending it was the end of the expo. But they'd keep one or two, and then they'd retool it or reuse it for some other purpose. And that the technology that was at the World's Fairs was a stolen technology from the previous civilization before this cataclysm, mud flood, whatever. And that's the stuff, that's what we have. And these same people have stolen a lot of this technology, which was my theory. They don't get into this, but I get into it. At the Serapeum, those big granite boxes that they opened up, and then they found, recently I talked about this, how they did find that there are these places, big open spaces where stuff was stored underneath the Sphinx. And, and for years they lied about that, but it's actually true. And they found them, and guys went down there and photographed it and stuff. And there were some guys live streaming it. So it was like, no crap. All right. And that out of that stuff, who knows what they pulled out of there? Smartphones, probably, computer chips, all the technology. In other words, we don't even know what version we're in. Is this civilization, like imagine one of these, like take it like a sci-fi. Think of life as a sci-fi movie. That's the way I think of it these days. Okay. And you're caught in this thing almost like, how would you say? You just keep waking, there's these different dimensions or something like that. But it's almost like, not like the butterfly effect exactly, where he'd wake up and then everything would be changed or whatever. But almost like that, in the sense that everything that, like I say, everything is wrong. And I'm going for broke here in the last days of these shows. But, and it really...
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
But imagine that every 12,000 years, 6,000 years, or what these guys who are pushing this mud flood thing, they're talking 400 or 500 years, right? And I think even like in Adapt 2030, he's talking about, they're talking about this... grand solar minimum is like, is like a 400 some year cycle type of thing, which planet freeze, mini ice ages and stuff like that. But nobody knows the full extent. And then you have a mini ice age and it's got to melt, and then you might have a mud flood, and then it floods over a story of a building. And we talked about this before, but since there's so few viewers, the idea is that this stuff melts, and you've got the first floor of what's, say, Main Street right now in your town, okay? Well, imagine this mud flood, okay, that covers Main Street up to the second floor. And so what they have to do is, they can't dig it out because it's mud flood. It's all over, okay? You got this level, a story high of mud that's covered the continent, basically, pretty much so, for the most part. I mean, except in some extreme hill, mountainous ways, ravines, or some certain areas, obviously. Along a river bank or some strange thing like that. And so what people have to do is turn the second floor of the building into the first floor. And so all over the U.S. and including in Europe, people have dug open the earth to put the foundation for a new building, to put some kind of, underground system in there, some whatever. And when they dig out, they find this first floor of a building. And then some of them, people have gone into these basements of these buildings in downtown districts. Because remember, in the early days, you basically had the downtown, and and the rest of the people were pretty much rural. Okay, so it's the cities where you see this primarily. Okay, and you go down into the basements of some of these buildings, and suddenly you see you're not down in a basement, you're on a first floor, what was once a first floor. And then there would be a sub-basement. The real basement would be the sub-basement of that first floor. And these things go on where there's literally a downtown under the downtown. And, I know it's hard for you to believe, but I was reminiscing a couple of shows ago about when I was 16 years old. I got a job working at Rite Aid, and I used to work in the back room when I first got hired. And I was working the compactor because they get all their goods in boxes, right? Think of it. Those Rite Aid pharmacy type of places, or just think even Walmart. What do you get a dozen cans of yams come in? It comes in a box, the grocery store, right? What do you see clerks doing, right? They're rolling out these things, and they got boxes, and they're pulling canned goods and cereal boxes and whatever out of a box. And so in the back room, they have these big, ginormous, it's like a trash compactor, but it's a box compactor. And you put these boxes in, and this thing has this force of like, and in fact, it'd be a great thing in a movie, to torture, some psycho, murderous, movie, put somebody in the trash, into the box compactor, But anyway, I used to work in that back room, and that used to go way back, which also which was weird for me. But I noticed one time I used to be pretty much back there by myself when I first got hired, because I was working after school till night, right, till the store closed. So the owner manager guy, he was up at the very front of the store at the registers. And the other employees were basically just, stocking shelves. And occasionally they'd come back and bring me a big pile of empty boxes, right? And I'd be putting them in the trash compactor. So I had this thing down. I found this door that went down into a sub-basement. And so I had it timed out. I'd look, because there was the manager in the daytime, I guess, when he had other people working the cash register, there was that, one-way, mirror type of thing, so it looked like a mirror, but from where I was in the back, I could see the entire store. So I'd quick take a look, and I could see, okay, there's the manager. He's up there working the register, and there's people checking out. He's not coming back. And the guy and the other guys who were stocking the shelves, they just finished bringing me back a load of boxes, and I could see they're busy, and they're going to be busy for about another 20 minutes to a half hour. So cool. So I'd go down, I'd throw some boxes in the thing, and I'd go downstairs, and I would explore in these short little trips, like, 10, 15-minute, trips, so I wouldn't get caught. And I found that this sub-basement led, like, it crossed the main street. It went in all different directions. Eventually I brought a little flashlight with me, but it was scary as hell. I was just like a 16-year-old kid. All right. I didn't know what the heck was down there. Rats, whatever. But it just went on and on. It was underneath the entire town. It's a true story. And then I start seeing these things on YouTube and in hearing about this mud flood just a couple of years ago. And, that's pretty fascinating stuff. It's like the whole thing is everything you know is wrong, and you don't know what you don't know. And there could be some rational explanation for it, but I've yet to hear one, because the problem is a lot of these people who photograph this stuff and a lot of these stories, where they take cameras, it's in real time. This isn't like CGI. This isn't slick stuff. These are YouTubers, all right? These are people just going, checking stuff out. You know what I'm talking about. There's a whole like crew on YouTube, like people that explore abandoned mansions, find neighborhoods that a development that wasn't finished, right? And they go through these houses with their, cameras in real time. You could tell when something's a Blair Witch Project, made to look like some kind of thing, and when something is just some people out there with their smartphones checking out some stuff. Do you know what I mean? And put it this way, there's too much of this stuff. There aren't that many Blair Witch Projects. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who do some crazy, nutty stuff to get viewers and to make money, to monetize themselves on YouTube, I mean, for sure. But hey, I just noticed it. If you look really closely at the eagle on here, let's see if I can get it where it's reflected. Look what the eagle's holding. Can you see that? I didn't notice that before. You see it? The original vaccine passport. But anyway, you know the difference. And the point is there's too much of it, and it's realistic. And like I say, I've had a firsthand experience with it. But what I'm trying to get is the further west you go in the U.S., the former U.S. as I call it, the younger the cities are. Because originally everything was developed on the East Coast, right? And so there's no rationale, there's no explanation for these from the Midwest all the way to the coast, as they call the West Coast, just the coast, for there to be buried cities. You see? Because supposedly it was just indigenous people, Native Americans, wandering around, killing buffaloes and living in teepees, right? You know what I'm saying? But you go under these cities that are supposedly, some of those cities is like, gold rush cities, for example. When was the gold rush? It was in like the 1860s or, I don't know. Let's see. Look this stuff up. I don't know what the redo was, but man, don't do that. New window. Let's look at like California Gold Rush. California Gold Rush, yeah, 1848, 1855, sometime in the middle of the 19th century. Okay? So, you don't have enough time. You're talking, 170 years ago, right? Something like that. This isn't like, going into some ancient old Europe, or Rome catacombs or, some, below some ancient city that's been around, Pompeii or something. Do you know what I mean? We're talking about places that allegedly, supposedly, right? Have were like frontier towns that popped up because of the gold rush and then cleared out because there was no gold there. The gold ran out, and then maybe later on because of population and because originally it looked like a good place for a city that they like Carson City, Nevada or something. You know what I'm saying? And so. But you go underground in some of these cities that aren't that old, and it's like there's like a mud flood. And you're going, wait a second, man. This isn't Rome. There's no 2,000 years. Of course, I don't believe there's 2,000 years. That's the other thing that people have been talking about. You go down that rabbit hole that it's like, and I say sometimes, if you ever hear in the beginning of my shows, I go, it's like 1521. It's not 2021. It's like they added 500 years just to make it seem as if they were in power longer, kind of messed with it. Like, you don't know anything. You think about that. You don't know anything at all. It's like when I was showing the picture of Lincoln without a beard or stovetop hat, You only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. Well, I read about it in a book. I saw, what'd you see, an etching of it, Right? Somebody told you about something? Well, no, I don't know. And you don't know either. The fact of the matter is, none of us knows. I'm not professing I know. When I say you don't know what you don't know, I mean I don't know what I don't know. And when I say everything you know is wrong, I mean everything I know is wrong. Right? We don't know anything. We think we know. We know from our firsthand experience. We may know directly from childhood, our parents or a grandparents. In some cases I've talked about, some people may have had contact with a great grandparent. But beyond that, you don't know, right? It's just something in a book or something somebody said. And like I said, I don't like people who elevate. First of all, I think we disrespect our elders to begin with, okay? Because older people have experience and generally wisdom, okay? Excuse me for doing that. Whatever I just did, it was kind of weird, but
really funny. Really funny.
Yeah, I know. It was really funny, right?
Oh, no.
But not all of them, though, okay? Because there's some people who make it to a ripe old age who basically have done nothing and might have been a jerk their entire life, right? Think about that. But in general, I think as a society, at least in American society, we disrespect our elders in the sense that we kind of warehouse them, right? And a lot of and especially the wealthy, people who have money, they throw money at them, right? But put them in a really nice care facility, right? And all it is and I have a mother who's in, she has her own apartment. She's pretty old now, and she's not doing too well. But I've talked to her about it, and she's a very bright, intelligent woman. She was an artist, so she's got her head together, even though she's sick, and she's like 88 years old, over 88 right now. But we can still have good conversations, and we talk every week and everything. And and she said, and I've said to her, I said, it's like a gilded cage. She's not in a nursing home. She has her own apartment, but it's a managed facility in effect, that their meals are prepared, though she has her own refrigerator and kitchen, so she doesn't have to go to the dining hall, and that kind of thing. All right. And it's not some super wealthy place, but it's fairly expensive. It's a ripoff, put it that way. She went through, like a lot of people, they had their houses. My father died years ago, but people who bought houses in the 50s or the 60s, and then the price by the time when they sold them in the 90s and stuff, they bought a house for $20,000, and then the house was worth, 10 times that or more, right? So people had a little nest egg. Their house was their investment, was their retirement investment. And so these people build these places, but they charge them like ridiculous rents. And like, I know the place I'm talking about without naming names. I don't even know the name of the company that owns it, but I know they're like nationwide. They put this thing up in no time flat. In fact, she was living in another place, and she was watching this being built, and that's how she got in there, because she was like aware that they were constructing this place. The place went up in like less than a year. It's just another quick stick building. And since that, she's been there, I don't know how many years, but it's been plagued with problems, because, they just cut corners in construction and everything, but they charge these exorbitant rents. Well, anyway, the idea is that we disrespect our elders, and then we warehouse them when they get over a certain age, right? And some of the rich kids, they'll put them in, gilded cages, but they're cages because they're, it's just not the way it should be. You should, and respecting your elders is their wisdom, their minds. Like, we should really be talking to the older people. But again, I just want to qualify that to say that not all people are wise. Just because you reach the ripe old age of 75, 80, 90 or something like that doesn't instantly make you a wise man. And that's the same with like even Native Americans and shamans and chieftains and stuff. And sometimes this guy will, talk with his voice and say, in the days of the, my ancestors and the ant people did this and that and that. It's like, buddy, what you may be telling me may or may not be true. Okay? I don't know. And you don't know either. And it's been passed down to you from person to person. So how do you know it hasn't gotten distorted, right? Over 1,000 years or 2,000 years or even a couple hundred years, right? Because you don't know. You weren't there. You see? You weren't there. And let alone something like when we talk about this catastrophe thing, the sun nova thing that I do talk about, the one thing that I have kept here on my site, right, is this sun event. It's looking more like it might happen a little bit sooner than we expected. The planet is messed up. Anyway, nobody knows what happened 12,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, right? I mean, you may as well believe, you look at these mesas and all these structures out there that look like trees, right? That there may well have been these trees that were like thousands of feet high. The land of the giants. This planet is pretty big. It's 24,000 miles wide at the equator. So imagine us being the ant people. Like the show Land of the Giants. That's why I always look at those guys when they show like these people who have these videos about giants too. This free flow of consciousness. We're going to be all over the place. And they show these guys who are like 10 or 12 feet tall. And I know that it's fact because when I lived down the shore, they had on a boardwalk in Wildwood, New Jersey. One summer I was down there and they had some like inside this indoor mall, they had some like kind of sideshow thing. And I hate that kind of stuff because I think that, again, I don't like people to be disrespected. All right. I mean, I'm a little bit irreverent when it comes to just, some of, me criticizing idiocy, but not people. Like I don't go there. Right. I just criticize idiocy. If somebody's, excuse me, somebody's a real jerk, or there's some policy or some thing is idiotic, I'm the first one to call it out. But there was a woman, I was staying in an apartment. I was just a kid, I might have been 20. I don't know, something like that. And I was down for a summer job and I was living across the street and up, I don't know, maybe about six or seven buildings across the street up from me was the world's tallest woman. She was part of that like thing they had in the mall where they had, it was like circus stuff, and the sideshow, and like they would consider her a circus freak or something. It really bothers me because I have empathy, And so I had a little deck in the place that I was renting. It wasn't much of a deck. It was it was a communal thing. I mean, anybody who rented an apartment in that place, could use that deck. But I would sit out there. I don't know if I smoked in those days or not. But I would just sit out. I could remember sitting out there, and I could remember looking up the street a couple of times because obviously she was big. She didn't want to be like caged inside. She lived in that building up there across the street, six or seven, houses up. Stayed there for the summer. But she would be sitting on the steps, and it'd be like her, her rump would be on the porch, and her legs would almost be on the sidewalk. She was big. I walked by a couple times, said hi to her. She seemed like she seemed like a nice girl. She couldn't have been more. She was only in her 20s too, something like that, And she had a nice smile, and she was a pleasant person. And I guess this was the only way she was going to make money. She was too big to fit in a car. Really, she couldn't drive a car. You know what I mean? This, in fact, it was sad. To me, it was sad. I always looked at that as sad. But, so she got paid for people to look at her, but, she was I don't know, man. She was 14 feet tall or so. I don't know what, and she wasn't skinny. Sometimes you see the world's, she was, proportionately big. But, people talk about, they say, oh, there were giants, and they point to people like that might have been 15 feet tall or 20, something like that. And I'm going yeah, well, that happens. I've seen one myself when I was a kid. That's why I say one thing about having a life like I did and traveling all over the place is that you get to see a lot of things firsthand. And that's what really got me to this point of you don't know what you don't know and everything you know is wrong, because I've seen so many things firsthand. Right? So that I know when I hear people talking or people, questioning somebody saying something or watching something, and they'll say, oh, that's not true. And I'll be like, it's true, man. I know it's true. There's nobody that big. It's I used to live across the street one summer from somebody who was a giant. Literally, she was a giant. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about imagine a million years ago, the Earth. Okay, you got dinosaurs, right? And these things are huge. All right? Okay, do you think dinosaurs, so then you look at a tree, in your backyard, and you see something that's 20 or 40 feet tall. But you got dinosaurs. Let's just look up a thing, just to get into this stuff. New window. Okay. Just want to check this out. Why do you have to say meters? Why can't you say feet? Okay. Tallest. The internet's broken. I was talking to somebody again about that yesterday. The internet literally is frickin' broken. You can't. Google search is the most useless thing in the world. I don't want to know how long a dinosaur is. I want to know how tall. All right? What was the tallest carnivorous dinosaur? All right. And it gives us a name, but it doesn't tell us how tall it was. Were they afraid to tell us? All right. Which is bigger, T-Rex? Well, this is are they hiding this from us? This is freaky, man. So, yeah, so according to YouTube, they don't want to let us know. They're telling us how many tons they are. Or how long, but not how tall. Well, anyway, these things weighed 15, some could have weighed 15 tons and been 43 feet long. Okay? That's the best we're going to get out of there. Here, now I've got all kinds of subscribes and ad things coming up and popping up on me. So I was going to show you that thing, but let's not mess with that. Okay. So if you have one of these Gigantisauruses or whatever the heck they are, and it's 43 feet long, I don't know. And, it's got this ridiculous neck or, it's like or the T-Rexes or I don't know, or various things they could stand on its, whatever. Well, do you think, and there was ones that are 112. Look it up yourself, man. Google sucks. What's the tallest dinosaur, right? And then it gives you a name of one, but it doesn't tell you how tall it was. They're fucking idiots, man. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is there were dinosaurs. We know that. We found them. I used to live in D.C. That's another one of my adventures. I told this story before. I'm pouring coffee out of the carafe. Yes, I got my shirt on. And so I used to go to Smithsonian a lot. Because I used to just live on Capitol Hill. And I didn't have to do anything. Because I used to work for Roy Cohn, and he was like based out in California. So he used to come in, and I work, and my check was sent down from a law firm in Connecticut. So it's like it was like I used to just like run the townhouse. There was a swimming pool in the back. It was great. It was a Capitol Hill townhouse. It was like, right there in the middle of everything, and he came in town like once a month. Sometimes he'd skip a month. And all I had to do was take him around to some appointments, give him his itinerary that was faxed down from the law firm in Connecticut, and take him over to meet with some union officials or whoever the heck, whatever his business was, right? I mean, that's how I got to the White House one time. That's another story. But anyway, so I had a lot of free time. So I used to write and explore D.C. I knew D.C. like crazy. People who lived in D.C., because I made friends there, and I used to hang out with them and stuff. And I'd like drive around places, and I'd know shortcuts. And the people who lived there their entire life, they go, "Man, you know this city better than I do." Well, I got nothing but time on my hands, so I'm always checking stuff out, and I got to take this guy, to appointments all over. So when I had free time, especially the first month or two of the job, because he had one of those suicide doored cars, the doors that open like this, front door opens this way and the back door opens that way, right? It actually was in the Reagan inaugural parade. And it still had the flag on it, and it still had the commemorative inaugural license plate thing was still on the front of it or whatever. But anyway, I used to walk, after I did that and explored the town and learned DC and got to know all that stuff. I mean, that was a whole other experience. I used to go to Smithsonian and places like that, just explore museums and stuff. So I saw those dinosaur things up close. They're big. And what I'm saying is, so imagine 1 million years ago, 60 million years ago, because you can't imagine 60 million years ago. I can't imagine 60 million. Nobody can imagine 60 million years ago. Nobody can imagine. Can you imagine even 1,000 years ago? Not really. 400 years ago. That's what I'm trying to say. We take everything for granted. But before I get back to that, let's keep on the dinosaur thing and the tree thing. So you see these things, these stumps, like in that movie First Encounters, right? With Richard Dreyfuss. Man, that one actor, I never liked a single role he ever played, right? Just didn't like the guy, But anyway, and the woman in that, she was kind of weird too. But if you looked at that thing, it looks like the trunk of a tree, right? But if that were a trunk of a tree, and there's tons of these all over the earth, right? They look like mountain tops, but they're flattened off, like they're plateaued. But they really look like tree trunks. Well, the thing is, if that was a tree, imagine how tall that tree would be. Right? Thousands of feet tall. So go back millions of years when you had these a more oxygen-rich atmosphere and, all sorts of different things, the sun, the moon was way closer. There's a full moon out there right now, by the way, or at least it looks it. When I came down the stairs, I looked out my window and it was like a big, bright full moon. And I don't know if it tells me here on my thing. No. There's so many things they can do with the computers, but they don't, right? Everything you got to search because they want to get an ad from you, or they want to get some info from you. So you got to go jump through a few hoops instead of just having bam-o, But anyway, the moon has been moving away from us, I don't know, so many inches every year, right? Or a half inch, or I don't know, something like that. I forget what it is. But that doesn't mean anything at a couple thousand years, 10,000 years, Yeah, the moon was a little bit bigger and probably really gave a solar eclipse, right? Because now you could kind of see that's why now it's not really it's not really a pure solar eclipse. You kind of see it's like a aurora thing or whatever, But at one time, the moon completely covered the sun. It was black. Now it gets nightish. But no, imagine the moon being twice the size, right? Or even a third of the size or a quarter of the size bigger. How big the moon was in the sky back then. And how big these trees might have been. And they were petrified because they were covered with water, with this flood, right? That recurs every 12,000 years. And these things were submerged. How do you get a petrified forest? Did you ever hear that? That was another part of my thing. I went through that whole area where you get these geodes and you can go through the petrified forest out in the southwest. Traveled around in my car. I pulled over there, the Painted Desert. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's a lot of people don't know this stuff because they just don't travel anymore and everybody's under lockdown. And these kids are out there protesting, we want this. And I'm like, man, well, you wouldn't want anything if you would have, instead of wasting your time, trying to get involved with some cause, you would just have explored this planet like I did in my, when I was younger and went around, right? People just don't, you miss out on so much. I've been in most of the states here and I've been across, both of the major oceans. I haven't been around the Indian Ocean, that whole area, but I've been in Australia. But there's a few places I haven't been. But I've basically, pretty much been around the world more or less, one way or the other. But I've, and there's a lot of crazy stuff out there to see. So imagine millions and millions of years ago, we have the bones of these dinosaurs, so we know they existed. Like I say, you got to have evidence, hard evidence of things. And you have these weird tree trunks that may or may not, I can't say with 100% certainty, but it just seems to me that in the land of the giants, which would have been the dinosaur days, right? That everything would have been bigger, right? I mean, you got these huge dinosaurs, right? And what, little tiny trees down here? Do you see what I mean? What then, so the trees would have been nothing compared to them? No, I don't think so. I think the entire planet, remember, it's 24,000 miles across the equator. If you go down to the Amazon, which is another one of these things that these stupid climate crisis people, they've never been to the Amazon, right? They're deforestation. I did a show on it. I've talked about this a couple of times. I'll talk about it again. The Amazon, when you go down the Amazon, which is, first of all, it's a river. It's not, but the Amazon deforests. You could take a drone, or if you could get up high in the canopy, You can look right now today, okay? So forget about your deforestation crap. You could get up in a canopy today and you could look and you'll see Amazon forest as far as the eye can see. And that's if you could get that high up in the canopy. These guys have to use all these things to pull themselves up. In other words, it's like mountain climbing. That's how tall these freaking trees are, because they're still down there, some of those trees. And there are trees, and I have pictures of them and videos from a guy who was actually the head of a zoo from a major city, all right? Was on one of the expeditions I was covering. And I have people, could show you people standing, and you could find this stuff. It's not just me, all right? I mean, you could research this. People standing next to tree trunks, living trees down there. It's just like out in the sequoias and, out in California, you still have some of these massive forests. The classic tree that that the car could drive, through it, right? Well, the Amazon's full of trees like that. Giant, ridiculously huge trees and plants and things. And everything's big. Bigger than it should be. Like spiders. I mean, you want to get scared? You got arachnophobia? What if you saw a frickin' spider that was like this big or something? Or some bee, right? That was like as big as your head. Every stuff, there's life down there, right? Life. These trees are giving off oxygen, right? I mean, that's like, it's like the earth was millions of years ago. It's still there. That's the heart of the planet. And some indigenous people or people who live down there, some factory farmers trying to feed the people of that region, chopping down so many hectares of forest on the edges of the Amazon region is not affecting the climate of the planet and is not taking away the Amazon. You have no idea how big it is. Okay? It's huge. And you know what another problem is? It's because people don't understand. They look at maps and they don't understand the concept of a map. Like everyone thinks, like you can do some research on this, and there's been two different map styles of maps. I forget the names of one's like the Merck something or other. But anyway, when you look at a map of like North America, or even over of Russia, right? Like this, like the northern latitudes, right? Well, what you've done is you've taken the Earth and you flattened it out. And when that process is done, what happens is Alaska looks like this giant place, right? And Greenland looks huge. Like Greenland looks like it's the size of Africa, right? You ever see a map? Like I say, let's see if I could do this because I could point this out. New window. Actual size of countries. Let's see if I could find this. Let's see if somebody's done this. Like here's one. Of course, that wouldn't make sense to people. Let's see. This is okay. Yeah, it's the I knew it was Merck something. Okay, Mercator projection with true country sizes added. Okay, now, you can see my my mouse here. This is a really mind blower. Okay, now let me. I'm sorry, I wasn't even showing you that. Okay, I have to make sure you see this. Okay, I don't want any more of your maps. Okay, map found via Reddit. Click for larger version. Okay, now check this out. Here's the World Mercator projection with true country size added. See, everything you know is wrong. This is a typical example. All right. The map that you see, all right, is based on, you know, see how big Alaska looks in the light blue? This is how big Alaska really is, the dark blue. Canada looks like it's huge. Looks like Canada is bigger than the U.S. It's not. There's the size of Canada. Greenland is the biggest joke. Most people think Greenland's like the size of like, Africa. Look at Greenland. Greenland is like the size of like, maybe like the Mississippi on over. That's so people think, oh man, if Greenland melts, right? Or like, this Russia. Well, in the light blue, this is the map you went to school with and you were told, the Mercator, right? Or whatever. But in reality, look at Russia's just this little, this is Russia. It's not that big, and then the further you get closer to the equator, the more realistic the sizes are. It's just the way that they've distorted, But the biggest one I always have to laugh at is Alaska. Look at, because I always said, wow, Alaska's big. What a deal the U.S. got buying that from Russia. No, Alaska's tiny. Canada isn't that big. But Greenland is the ultimate joke. Look at this little blue in the middle, okay? You make sure you can see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you were able to see. Yeah, look at this. That's Greenland, this dark blue in the middle. Svalbard, look at this little, how tiny it is. Right? Look at like, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, right? Even the UK isn't really as big as you think it is, right? These countries. And so we have this like deception, here's a close up of this. Look at this. You see what I'm saying? Even the U.S. itself isn't as big as people think it is, right? But Greenland's the ultimate joke. I mean, look at that. This is Greenland, this little tiny blue thing. It's a distortion of the map. People, you don't know what you don't know. And I've tried to bring this stuff to people, and over the years of me doing these kinds of shows and stuff. So imagine, but you can see from what you saw from that Africa, South America, and those areas and those equatorial regions, they're pretty much in scale. So they're way bigger than you could possibly imagine. The Amazon is huge. And so people are thinking, oh no, if Greenland melts. Yeah, if Greenland that you went to school and were taught melted, yeah, it would, You just don't know what you don't know. And what I'm trying to say is imagine millions of years ago when everything was big, that the chances are if a dinosaur was, so many, ridiculously huge, the sizes of buildings, skyscrapers, then probably all the trees were too. And there may well have been giants, like when it says in these, old writings, in those days there were giants. They weren't talking about the girl I talked about or a 14-foot person or something like that. They might have been talking about, 100-foot people. And they found things, but everything's hidden. It's like they don't even want to tell you how tall dinosaurs are, because it's as if they don't want kids to know. And they, the same with that Mercator projection map and stuff like that. It's like a lot of people. I bet you, I'm willing to wager anyone watching this show had no idea what I just showed you, and that is fact. And do you think they're teaching kids in school today that? No. They're more worried about teaching them some false history from 400 years ago. It's like, how do they know? Well, this is, You don't know what you don't know. We're finding buried cities out west. There are the same amount of stories of people saying that America was settled and that it wasn't the American Indian, the so-called American Indian indigenous people. They were migratory people, all right, who appeared here, right, after the last first of all, during the Younger Dryas period, when you had mammoths, when they found all those mammoths with like undigested food in them and like these giant bears and cats and stuff that all went extinct like 10,600, 12,000 years ago here in the United States, in North America, right? Well, there were no, at that time when there was miles of ice over top of most, the northern tiers of the U.S., better part of the country. Well, there were no indigenous people here. Anything that lived was basically flash frozen, and then when everything melted, it was all washed away. Right? It's the same with the indigenous people in, I've been to Australia, and met some Aboriginal people and stuff like that. And I respect those people and I respect their traditions. But it's the same story. I think when I was over there, they were talking 13,000 years or something like that. But that's so close to the 12,000 year thing that, because when you start talking that way back, it's like, it becomes vague. But prior to that, nobody knows what the heck was going on. See, nobody knows what was going on this planet. The last time, anything before, nobody has a clear-cut idea. The last time the sun had one of it expelled its outer shell and had what's called a nova, not a supernova. Not a supernova. It's a nova event. The sun expels its outer shell. The Earth's magnetic field is already weakening. The sun's weakening. There's this kind of craziness that goes on in the solar system. The Earth's not the only planet affected, for crying out loud. And then look into the Thunderbolts project and the electric universe and plasma discharges and these things like the Grand Canyon or these things on Mars that look like, well, maybe this is where they say, it was a riverbed or a river ran there. No, it wasn't. That was like arced electricity or the plasma discharge that dug that thing out. That's been like reproduced in laboratories, multiple places, multiple times, those experiments. True science is when you can reproduce, something that you're theorizing about, and it could be reproduced by multiple people in multiple locations. All right, that's science. That's experimentation. Not like this crap today where you can't even question a frickin' thing, right?
Your papers, please.
In case any monitors are on there.
Go ahead and shoot. You'll be doing me a favor.
These people. I don't know, man. It's pretty crazy.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And then once you do that, they go like, man, that guy's a nutbag. Yeah, well.
This is insane.
And speaking of the Aboriginals. So anyway, see all this craziness, that's out there? And you don't know anything about. So it's like, don't go telling me stories about indigenous people in North America and about the red man versus the black man versus the yellow man and this, that, the other. You don't know that. You don't know who was here. Nobody knows who was here. And what are these cities that were buried, these mud floods? Did that happen 12,000 years ago? Were there great cities here before the last one of these things? And when all that water, glacial ice melted, did that create the mud flood and flood the great cities of North America, right, that existed prior to, 12,000 years ago? And then we built over top of this. Forget about Columbus. He didn't discover shit. It's just, but neither did the, the same goes for the, people talking about, the Vikings and everything. This place we don't know we don't know what was going on there. Yeah, Vikings came over before, ancient Vikings. Heck, there's like records from all kinds of peoples from all over the place. We don't know. There might have been people that started here and went over, to Europe and the Middle East and to, Northern Europe, and likewise over to Asia. Why is everybody, do you understand how simplistic, people's brains are, and how the school system screws people up? They don't even teach people the real size of continents and countries. No wonder people were scared to death during the Cold War of Russia. They thought it was this giant country when it was like, half the size, right? People think Canada, man, Canada, there's all this land up in there. Yeah, it's big. It's definitely big. It's, it's a big state, but it's not that big. All right. Greenland, man. Greenland is like, people look at it. So you understand there's so many of these things that are just right in your face if you take the time to research them. But our own teachers don't teach us that. I never had a single teacher tell me that. Say, oh, Russia's not that big. Greenland's not that big. Alaska's not as big as you think it is. Canada's not that big either. Nobody's ever told me that, right? They just don't tell you that. People won't tell you anything that happened. They don't tell. I would never learned when I was in school, neither any school, any class, about the Younger Dryas period, right? I do remember being taught that there was ice, mile-high ice over top of Central Park and stuff like that, and that some of those rocks and things like that were glaciers, ground the things down and stuff like that. But apart from that, which I'm not sure if everyone is really even cognizant of, most people have no idea that the places, if you Pennsylvania and Chicago, Detroit, all these big northern cities and stuff were covered with ice. I mean, buried with ice, right? So there were no American Indians, no indigenous people living here even 10,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago. They couldn't have. It was like the day after Tomorrowland. That's what it was like. All right? We're living in an interglacial period on an ice planet, more or less. Man, I wish I could have Bluetooth headphones instead of this cable choking me. But, So, yeah, it's pretty crazy when you think about it. And you don't know what you don't know. And I know that's unsettling to a lot of people. It doesn't bother me, it's intriguing to me. It's interesting. I want to learn these things, I like having my eyes open about things, and discovering something like that. That's like, wow, that's cool. Whew, that's weird. Like, to be honest with you, I didn't think Greenland was actually that small. I mean, I've seen this stuff about the Mercator projection and all that kind of stuff. But I never really, that was the first time I actually saw Greenland in its, how tiny it was. Because I never really paid attention much to Greenland. I was more looking at Alaska because I always knew that Alaska was bigger. It was being portrayed as being bigger than it was. And there were other parts of the. I knew Russia was always portrayed as being bigger than it was. And Canada as well, slightly. But, yeah, it's crazy. But it's fascinating to learn these things. So yeah, so we don't know what we don't know, and there were for all we know, and it seems that there's evidence of. Like I say, you have to come. You can't just deny what I'm saying, and you can't deny the true sizes of of Greenland or Alaska or Russia or Canada or any of that stuff, because you can actually go and see the square miles of those countries. But what I mean is, when I talk about these mud floods and about this stuff, you can't deny that there was ice covered. You can't deny the woolly mammoths and this, great bears and, these ridiculously large creatures that became extinct as little as 12,000 years ago here in North America. I mean, that's fact, And they found them and they have them, right? I've got video footage of from an expedition that I was involved in, where they had the woolly mammoth, one of the woolly mammoths, that they had uncovered. They keep them in like these ice. They have like ice caves, like where they dug these things down on the Siberian side of the north, the North Pole area, the North Atlantic, Arctic Ocean, whatever they call it. Yeah, it's called the Arctic Ocean. The North Pole is closer to Siberia than it is. The magnetic North Pole's moved to Siberia now, right? So you have an imaginary North Pole, but the real North Pole, as far as a compass is concerned, actually points towards Siberia. And and I said this before, the magnetic South Pole isn't even in Antarctica anymore. It's actually left the continent. So we're like in the process of what's called a pole flip. And if that happens, that is going, if that happens in our lifetime, which it could well happen like tomorrow, which is why we might be seeing all this weird storm and wind activity, is because of this pole, because of what's going on with the poles, the magnetic field of the Earth. See, the magnetic field of the Earth has been weakening like ridiculously. And that not only protects us from cosmic rays and even solar rays and stuff, which cause cancer causing and, just bad genetically. But it also affects those rays get into the inner planet, and that's why you're seeing a rise in volcanism. It heats up the planet internally, the magma. All right. And that's just like that La Palma that we were covering for a while, which I stopped. I'm not dealing with any of that stuff anymore. It's hot in here. So I don't know why. Oof. What the hell's the temperature outside? It says it's 41 degrees, so it must just be that the heat's on or something. It's strange. It's really hot down here. Well, I'm wearing a frickin' Santa Claus hat, though. Computer. No, computer's not hot. CPU's at about 7.9%. It's kind of a little high, but it's not too high. It's not too hot. So anyway, it's weird. It's weird stuff. It's really weird stuff. So that's what, that's YouTube. And that's YouTube at its best, is like when you talk about this kind of stuff. And like that other guy was showing you, that's like broadcasting that show. Right? Doing weird stuff like that. And then these other explorations of other things. Not these YouTube millionaires. Look we're building our chateau, we're building this, and we're making all this money from you suckers watching our videos. And then once we build our house and it's done and we got all this money and stuff like that, and we're living off the grid, we're just going to shut our channel off and screw you and get lost. I'm so tired of that. I used to watch some of these people. Man, that just pisses you off, in one regard. But I don't care. More power to them, More power to them. I don't care. I don't really. I'm doing what I'm doing, figuring it out day by day. But at least, I've just decided to take this, this direction of, the crazy unknown stuff that's factual, that, where as opposed to other people try to present it and, you could see some people talk about some of the things I talk about, but you could poke holes through it. But because they get into this fantasy land stuff because they're basically trying to they're monetized and they're just trying to get eyeballs. So they're trying to add, all sorts of interesting things to it that will, but it's clickbait. I'm not monetized, right? So I have no motivation to do that. And I wouldn't do it even if I was monetized because it's just not the type of person I am, right? I'm just calling it like I see it, Life is what it is, this is the way it is. Just sharing some of the things I know with y'all. But yeah.
The only station that matters.
But yeah, this thing ain't gonna last forever. I don't know. You see, it's a matter of principle with YouTube. It's because they're, the Google family, Alphabet, or whatever. If they wouldn't have been such pricks and so selfish, it's like with artists. Like I said, I have 50 some songs I've written, but they refuse to let, I can't do a radio show with music, though I probably will my last show on here. See, that's why that's what I'm trying to say. The reason I don't want to, I'm not going to continue this forever. Right. Though I don't know, maybe they just I forget what it is. Maybe if you get a strike, you can't broadcast live for a week. So maybe I'll just do that and get the first strike or something because I'll have no intention of broadcasting for a week anyway. And then maybe I'll come back again and get a strike 2 or until I get 3 strikes, you're out. And then who cares? Right. But, if they were cooler and they respected artists and they there's nothing worse. These same YouTube millionaires, they have these themes and this music in the background while they're doing their their work on their houses and all this different stuff. Right. But it's all this canned royalty-free type of music. Because Alphabet doesn't want to pay BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, the royalty companies, right? The same way radio stations and TV stations have to pay. But they don't want to do that. So they have you could go to YouTube Music, like that. They've got some arrangement with record companies or whatever for that. But no, people don't go to you. That's not exactly the place for people. YouTube's about, maybe YouTube Music Video, someone, those things get millions of views, especially with teens and stuff like that. It's freaking hot in here. But YouTube Music isn't exactly the number one choice for people with Beats headphones and, and that whole thing. There's just too many other music services, Amazon service, Spotify. You know what I mean? You don't have YouTube Music in your car. I mean, they may try to put it in there, but it's the last one. You see, understand what I'm saying? So that's another one of a charade, right? That they just put together so that people like me won't point out, how they're screwing over musicians and artists, people songwriters. Because the people who are doing a video don't have the opportunity to play a song. I've said this before and I've done this before. In other words, I don't have the ability to play this song. That's about all I could play before I would get, some kind of thing. But it's kind of too bad, right? You're probably just getting into it if you're a rock fan. Well, don't worry. There's a rock show coming up sometime in the next couple weeks, and it's going to kick ass. It's going to kick ass. Live. I may even bring out the brewskis for that. Like I did a 6-hour St. Patrick's Day show that got like kicked off. It gave me I think I got a warning for that. It's still posted. Warning. You have a warning. They treat you like kids. It's like, screw you. And I was playing Irish music. It's like, come on, it was St. Patrick's Day. I'm playing Irish music. Give me a frickin' break. You know? And listeners over in Ireland listening to me too. Because I started earlier, you know, so the time difference and stuff. And they were getting into it, you know? And people in Europe were starting to tune in and stuff. I mean, the show went through, but then they took it down afterwards. So I'll have to announce it. We'll have to do it live, and you're just going to have to tune in live because you're not going to be able to watch it on the rebound. And I'm certainly not going to drink. Like right now, it's 6:40 a.m. I'm not going to start drinking at 6:40 a.m. But I will have to probably start drinking at 8 or 9 a.m. or something. Do you know what I mean? It's going to have to be a morning. It's still going to be a morning show. But it'll be a rock show. Which I don't give a shit. I'll be, you know, trashed by noon, you know, but it will have been glorious. And then the show will have been taken down. I'll simulcast it on Rumble and Locals, maybe. Excuse me for doing that. I apologize, you know.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. Better than I was yesterday. Yesterday's show was weird. I don't know. I just didn't feel right. But I went, took a walk. I don't know. Cleaned out my system. The weirdest thing is I ate some fried chicken. And the point of the matter is I don't know how that would be good for my heart. I was huffing and puffing going up the stairs like 2 days ago. Yesterday I ate some fried chicken, and yesterday afternoon I'm like going up my steep stairs, and I wasn't huffing and puffing. You'd think I would have had a heart attack or something. There's no logic to any of it. It just doesn't make sense, you know? Nothing makes sense. You can't believe anything. So yeah, today is today, and I haven't really had a good babble like this in a while. Just getting into stuff. And, you know, time isn't really, you know, the show is really just kind of just going along, you know. Sometimes I look up at the clock, you know, the monitor clock. Like, see, if you look here, you'll see it, even though it's kind of weird. You see, that's like the time delay. Looks like a glitch in the Matrix or something like that. But that's the show as of like, I don't know, so many minutes ago. Not weird. And now you're really into some kind of weirdness. Look at that. But look at concurrent viewers 0. Nobody's watching. Nobody's frickin' watching. But they will watch in the end. They do watch. You know. Because I did get 47,300 watch time minutes this year. 47,300 or 47,000, well, just say 47,000 watch time minutes. I mean, I was disappointed that my Antarctica flat earth video where I was tried to, you know, demonstrated the idiocy of the flat earth thing. See, that thing with the size of the actual size, the Mercator projection type of thing, the flat earthers don't even know about that. So they're thinking it's like, because one of the things is, if you really delve into this, how long this has gone on, even the way the UN, like, because they always use like the UN map for this flat earth stuff. I think I still might have some of this up here. Yeah. So on this map used by flat earthers, this in and upon itself is total proof that the earth is not, is not flat. Okay. But like the UN uses that map on the right, okay, which is, which is ridiculous because like I said, Dublin to Sydney is over 10,000 miles. But if you flattened out the earth, it's 24,000 miles around. That's fact. We know that. That measurement's not a lie. Okay. All right. That would be 6,000 times 4 is 24,000. So if you flatten out something, that's what you get because you see what I'm saying. But they don't understand that. And in that map also, the size of Alaska, Russia, Greenland and stuff is still the wrong size. So the thing that these guys use themselves as what they call the flat earth, and they have these pictures, some of them have like a dome, some have a tree underneath the earth. It's really weird shit that these people are into. But what they don't know is no one ever taught them that their own very representations are flawed. So before they, in other words, they start right from the starting gate. They're making a mistake. They're misrepresenting things. But like I say, you can't argue with. Just like you can't argue with a 2-year-old, you can't argue or try to rationalize with an irrational person, all right, and someone who refuses to listen to the facts, right? And and that's just the way it is, there's no two ways about it. You have to have traveled. People just don't travel now. And it's like I said, even on YouTube now, just even doing searches and Wikipedia, they're begging for money and stuff like that. I used to send them money every year. I'd send them a few bucks here and there, right? Because I figure if I'm going to use a thing, it's like I always tell you, I pay for photographs. Like if I couldn't take the picture myself and I had to get a photo, I wanted to use a photo for something, I would either, create a photo shoot or I would purchase a photo. I'd purchase it. I'd pay. That's what gets me about what I was talking about YouTube with their artists. They have this, what they call royalty-free music, but it's not even paid for. In other words, YouTube must have bought it or Google, for pennies or $1 or not even, I don't know, whatever the heck it is. But the point is, why can't they play? If I want to do a show that on LA, why can't I have this as my intro? You know what song that is? Maybe not. Now you will. Right? But you can't. And if you do, you get a strike. 3 strikes, you're out. Because they don't want to pay the writers, the publishing companies, the owners of the songs, the royalties they deserve. Right? So YouTube is anti-artist. They're anti-artist. And that is my biggest problem I have with them. All of these videos, right, is a golden opportunity. This is broadcasting, okay? I'm talking in a frickin' microphone. I've got the headphones on. This is broadcasting. And what they're doing is they're not paying the frickin' royalties. And yet they're making, what are they, $1 trillion company, Alphabet? Something like that. Making hundreds of billions of dollars, and they can't afford to pay royalties or even work out a deal where, because even if they would just make a deal, because I'm sure with YouTube Music, they have a deal. And, they say Apple's a real prick. And so Apple negotiates directly with like record companies and publishing companies for like Apple Music. So they're not paying the full, it's not the full ride. It's like I notice myself, the few royalties I do get, right, from certain, and not nothing from YouTube, but it's always like pennies, for the song. It's weird. In fact, I haven't been on that, and it's on a different browser. But I've like looked down my list of songs, how I publish through, and and it has a list of like how much earnings you've made, right? And it'll be like a song that's gotten played only once, on some place, and it'll be like 2 cents or 1 cent or something like that. So YouTube's too cheap to even give me a penny to play my song, or a penny to play somebody else's song. Yeah, they're too cheap to do that. And that's like totally screwed up, right? And so instead, these people have these songs. See, here's where I get really annoyed, and it's more so me getting. It bothers me for the other artists, not for myself, right? Because people aren't. Let's face it. Some of my songs, I can't push this song enough. Virtual Cage. You got to listen to that song. That's a good song. I have some good songs out there. But granted, okay, I'm not worried about that. But it's like, there'll be like these Christmas songs. People will have a Christmas show and they'll be playing this fake Christmas music that's like half rip off. Or they'll have some southern, like some of these guys down south are building some kind of thing, and they'll have some like fake, it almost sounds like a Leonard Skinner song, but it's not, right? It's fake, So they take the same, but they like move the things around. It's, you know what I'm talking about, right? Or like a rock song, or could be, could be country. It could even be, dance or whatever. And it's like, why don't you let them play the Leonard Skinner tune? Or why don't you just let them play Andy Williams, right? For crying out loud. Instead, that's all you could play of that. Otherwise, you get a hit. Right? Earthquake. So, yeah, that's why I am, upset with them for that reason. And it's very annoying. Sometimes I even turn off a thing. Because, it's like you're putting a fake Leonard Skinner song on, man. Just play the frickin' tune. So, in so many ways, we have this great technology, this information age, all this, that, the other. And these corporatists, this corporatocracy, this crazy, these greedy bastards, they've who've taken over everything, right? And it's never enough. And that's the part that gets me. It's like, okay, I'm all for, I hope you personally, you, right? I hope you become a millionaire. I hope you win the frickin' lottery, I really do. I hope you get a good job and you make a lot of money and all that kind of stuff. I don't begrudge anybody that. I'm no socialist, communist, whatever. You know what I mean? I believe in free market, and the, that whole system. But I don't believe in crony capitalism and this corporatocracy, greed capitalism, where like last year, 2020, where they closed down all the small businesses, right? And Amazon has its a banner year, and Walmart has a banner year, and the box stores all have banner years. Then they raise the price of lumber and they raise the price of everything, you know, and they're little, you know, and they give some handouts to a few businesses here and there, but people go out of business and they say, oh, you got to wear a mask when you go to a restaurant or something. It's like, who the fuck wants to go to a restaurant? I want to, you can take the mask off while you eat, but then you have to put it back on. I'm going to take a date out to a restaurant, candlelit dinner or something weird like that, or some place with really cool ambiance overlooking some kind of place or whatever. And I want to look into her eyes. I want to see her face. You know, I want to talk to her, get to know her, right? Something like that. And they're telling me, well, yeah, you could come to a restaurant, but you know, when you're not eating food, you got to put your mask on. Like, I want to stare at some girl's mask on. I might as well go, you know, go to some Middle Eastern country or go, you know, to a convent and have dinner with the nuns or something, you know, and have them put veils on her. I mean, what the fuck? And meanwhile, Jeff Bezos makes so much money, he flies a rocket up in space for a couple of minutes and spends $2 billion because he's like, could you believe all this money I got, man? It's ridiculous. I got fucking $60 billion. And Elon Musk has got all this money, and he's flying rockets and talking about going to Mars. Forget about Mars, man. You know, and forget about electric cars. You know what the whole thing about that is? Electric cars run. This is. I know people don't want to hear this. Look, if you've got a self-sufficient system, if you're wealthy enough, you know, I can't do it. All right, the average person can't do it. But if you're wealthy enough that you have one of these self-sufficient, do you ever see how many solar panels it takes to run a house? Watch like some of these YouTube people that have built these solar systems. And you have to have this ridiculous amount of land and a ridiculous amount of solar panels because if you want to basically run a refrigerator, right? You know, a clothes dryer, you know, I mean, real appliances. Right? You need power. And they've got these ridiculously giant solar arrays for their house. And then forget about the wind farms, you know, the bird killers in those places, just destroyed the landscapes all over. And with all of that stuff, wherever you drive around, all you see are these turbines, bird killing windmills, and ruined all the landscapes, a bunch of white frickin' fans in the sky, right? With all that shit, right? When you're driving a Tesla, do you know what's powering it more than likely in most of the states? You're running on fracked gas and coal, right? People say, well, it's hydroelectric. We get a lot from hydroelectric. Yeah, gets pushed into the grid in certain areas. In the northern states, it's cold outside right now. Outside is as cold as my refrigerator, okay? I don't have to, if the power goes out, and I was, you know, in the old days when all I cared about was listening to music and drinking beer, right, and having a good time, okay? The power goes out, big fucking deal. I've got my backup power thing right here. I'll hook my music up to that. I got batteries, you know, and I'll be like listening to music. And I'll put the case of beer out on the front porch because the front porch right now and for the next couple of months is actually going to be cold, if not colder than my refrigerator. All right? Now, and that goes all the way across the northern tier of the United States. And I don't mean a border with Canada. I'm talking West Virginia, you know, Pennsylvania, you know, Ohio, straight across, Indiana, right? Illinois, Indiana. Right across. It gets colder further you go, Pacific Northwest. You know, they measure the snow in feet up in like Truckee and Tahoe. And they got a lot of snow, by the way, this past week. And so what I'm saying is those places, how do you think, you know, unless you live in one of those mansions where you've got, you know, wood burning stove, fireplace and all that stuff. Yeah, the wealthy, and they truck in this lumber, and they've got their, 3, whatever chords or whatever they call. I can't even think about it. I'd love to have a fireplace myself. Always wanted to have one. Had one when I was younger in one of the apartments. I lived in a pricey apartment when I first started out, and I had a fireplace, and I loved it. And had one out in California. It's true. I had a fireplace in Malibu. We didn't put that on a lot, but that was a gas. I think that was a gas fireplace, man. See, that's blur. Yeah, that was a gas fireplace. I had a wooden fireplace in Philly. I lived on the main line in Philly, and I had a wooden fireplace there. And we had a fireplace in Capitol Hill, I think. That was a wood fireplace. And that we used to light that very rarely. You'd go out and you'd buy like a couple of logs that they'd have shrink wrapped somewhere. You see that at grocery stores sometimes. Or those logs, right? I don't know if you see that. They make them anymore. I haven't seen them. Duraflame or something. Remember that? There's probably some chemical in there. They stopped making them. Maybe they do still make them. I don't know. Or you'd get a couple of those Duraflame logs. And you'd have a little, romantic, open up a bottle of champagne, lay in front of the fireplace with the Duraflame log, some nice music, and get naked with some girl and drink champagne and make love in front of a fireplace. Right? Yeah. That's what these people are missing. These people who are out protesting. Right? It's like, yeah, that's what I used to do when I was, that age. And I didn't come from no wealthy family, trust me. My father worked his whole life till he retired, and then he enjoyed his retirement. And there was a time on and off my mom worked on and off too. Not the whole time. She raised the kids. She didn't work when she raised us when we were kids. She was a stay-at-home mom. But the point was, we were just working class, or lower middle class, whatever you want to call it, back in when you had a middle class type of thing. But we didn't want for anything. And the point of the matter is, you could enjoy life and it's up to you, and you could still figure out ways to do things. But getting back to this, these people who are these elitists who can afford these cars and these solar arrays and have this property where they can have so many solar panels or something to be self-sufficient, right? Or the or the roof. Like my roof fucking leaks, so I can't put up. I sure as hell can't afford a solar city that Elon Musk bought out. Tesla's roof system with their battery their portable power pack you put in the garage, and then you have the full system, the car, the power pack, and then the solar roof, and all that stuff. It's like, that's for the wealthy, the elitist. So the average person gets one of these electric cars, and half the United States, if you live in pretty much half the United States, unless you're in the South or something, you're getting, or certain areas near a dam, that's producing hydroelectric or something like that. Chances are your car technically is running on fracked gas and coal. I mean, indirectly, because that's where it comes from. And if they want to get rid of like this oil, gas, and coal, they don't understand. It's 40 degrees. It's going to go down the freezing tonight or whatever, and next week or whatever. And then it's going to be cold as shit. We get snow, here in, where I am in the mid-Atlantic states, we get snow in like the second week of May. And they talk about, it's climate change. It's like, hey, I'm not up in the Northeast. I'm in the mid-Atlantic. I can't plant. I have to cover I try to plant early my garden out there, and I end up inevitably every year there's a late snow or a late frost, and I'm out there covering with burlap and all this kind of stuff to preserve stuff. I can't tell you how many times I've lost my tomato plants and stuff when I'm thinking, come on, man, it's May. It's got to be good enough. And then May 10th, it snows, So how do you think you're going to heat all these homes? With wind turbines and solar arrays? And what? A dam somewhere out in Nevada or something or whatever? They're just not thinking. Anyway, there was a lot of stuff covered in this show today. All right? I mean, it really was.
Good morning. It's the holiday season.
All right, take it easy. Hey, all this stuff's still for sale, you know. Visit my site, rockflux.com, you know, whatever. Get the shirt I'm wearing now, you know. This shirt. You know. The one the girl's wearing there. $18 or something like that's all it costs. Anyway, get my book, whatever. Do whatever. I don't care what you do. Have a great day.